The Blade has enjoyed a long and abiding tradition of supporting Toledo Ballet and celebrating the ballet's contributions to our community. The Blade is proud to help present this following program that explores the history, creativity, and performances of this treasured dance company. The employees of the Blade and our parent company, Block Communications, encourage you to support our region's cultural institutions like WGTE and the Toledo Ballet. We hope you enjoy the following Toledo Stories documentary, Reverence, Toledo Ballet.
People don't know. Like, occasionally my friends will get an awakening and they'll be like, wow, that's really what you do, that's incredible, but nobody really understands how much work goes into this.
There's a lot of pressure. It's just all stressful, but then I like to think of dance as like a place to let go, but then it's also a lot of hard work. They don't get it until they watch me, and then they're like, oh my God, you actually are good.
It really has to be for the love of it. Do you really want to do this? Do you really want to make this your life? Eventually, when you're around other dancers that have trained like you have trained, everybody can do these things that are the technique you learn in class. You are the only thing that you can offer that nobody else in the world can offer, and so you have to bring yourself to the dance.
I know I'm good, but I know I'm always going to be working and I'm always going to be pushing for the next level. You realize how many good dancers there are. If you're the best at your studio, you're not necessarily the best somewhere else.
You have to have talent, natural talent, but a lot of it is how much work you're willing to do.
Generous support for Reverence, Toledo Ballet is provided by the Clement O. Mininger Memorial Foundation and by The Blade, encouraging support of the arts and the great cultural institutions of the region, and by Thomas and Kathleen Donnell. Support is also provided by ProMedica Health System, working with physicians, healthcare providers, businesses, and the community to improve health, and by the Andersons, and with the generous financial support from viewers like you. Thank you.
Reverence is kind of saying goodbye or thank you for everything you've done. The emotion behind it, I think it's just so beautiful. There's nothing else you can really do. At the end of each class that we have in ballet, we all say thank you to the person that's giving the class, and we all curtsy towards them or bow, and it's just a way of saying thanks. It's kind of a closure.
Believe it or not, we started like 2 days after Nutcracker came down. Wasn't a lot of rest for the weary there. You know, you lay it all out on paper and you kind of go, okay, there's this much to do. How much time do we need to do it? So there just wasn't a lot of, take a break time, unfortunately, this year. So we just keep plowing through. And, like I told them, I said, this is, if you ever do this for a living, and this happens, consider yourself lucky. What am I looking for? Yeah, I want the struggle, the recovery.
Michael is more of a jokester. The way he runs his rehearsals is that he tries to get you to have an understanding, but he does it in a way that you don't necessarily know that you're understanding. He has like this huge image in his head. He's trying to show you what he's talking about. What Michael always says is, you're dancing for like a greater meaning. There's always a reason for every dance we do.
People come to dance for a lot of different reasons. I think what's exciting about working with this age, when you get especially into like junior high, high school age, is that you may say something that is that epiphany that makes them look at it differently, that makes them think of it differently.
I would love to dance for a career. I've been thinking about it a lot. I just got back from Chicago. I was doing a dance convention and I just love it. It's amazing. I know I'm good, but when I went to Chicago, it was kind of a slap in the face. You realize how many
good dancers there are, and if you're the best at your studio, you're not necessarily the best somewhere else.
The profession is crazy. You have to be really, really good if you want to make it and do well. A lot of people make fun of me because they say dance isn't a sport and anyone could do it, it's easy, but they don't get it until they watch me, and then they're like, oh my God, you actually are good. We thought you were just saying you were.
I think it's more powerful when we're not just doing steps, when we're actually in there trying to make people think, or we're trying to, you know, take people on a journey, or, you know, but you have to take it, it has to come from the inside out. Dance for everything you have on this one. Really go for it, okay? Give it to me. Pound. Energy, high energy. Hit it hard, okay? So the audience is just like, wow, this is gonna be a crazy show, okay?
In the old days, it wasn't nice to dance. In fact, when I first began to dance, and the dancers were asked to wear their leotards and tights to show off your body in such a way was not very nice. I was a brash youngster. I knew I loved the dance. And when I attended a performance of the Russian ballet and decided there was something wrong with what they were doing, that they weren't very precise, and how was I, if I had the direction of that company, the Russian ballet, what I would do to get those dancers to perform on the music all at the same time, the right steps. When I was 13, I began teaching. I didn't drive. My mother would scoot me down from school to the Bach Conservatory, and eventually when I did have a car, that was the same thing. Hurry down to the Bach and teach my classes.
The Bach Conservatory was my home away from home, and at that time, through the eyes of a 7-year-old, it just went on like a mansion. And Marie Vogt would have been my second mother. I knew that I was definitely going to respect her, and that she was indeed in charge. And again, she did it in a very warm, ladylike, professional way.
Everyone was interested in pursuing ballet.
There was a camaraderie that that just stays in your heart forever and ever.
In the early days, whether we had a large performance or not, and remember, I was just a pipsqueak, I'd call the Toledo Blade, and I asked to speak to the editors. And I'd say, I have a scoop for you. And they thought that was kind of cute, I guess. And I would send them the notice of our recitals and performances, and they would print them. I was not only interested in performing, dancing myself, but in sculpting a company. And if you want to develop a ballet company, you have to have dancers, and dancers have to be trained.
Ballet was started in 1939. For Marie to have taken this passion and created such an insular world for these young people to practice this craft, I think is really extraordinary.
There were very few women who were, at that point, directing companies. I was just determined to do what I was doing. We had parents who were so interested that they would help me build scenery in their garages or in their driveways, and we danced wherever we could find a stage. We first danced at the Museum of Art. The Monday Musical Society, a group of ladies who were very interested in pursuing music, presented me and my dancers in a short program in an auditorium which seated 400 people. We had many venues. We danced many places. But there was a year when we danced downtown at the Paramount Theater, that wonderful theater, on a Saturday morning at 9 o'clock. The Paramount seated 3,000 people. We filled the house with the 3,000, and we had another 1,000 seated up and down the stairs of the balcony, and as well as the lower area. And we danced, and it was quite a success. And the paper the next morning commented on the unusual crowd on Saturday morning, but never mentioned, of course, that it was the Toledo Ballet that had brought all those people downtown.
I always have a lot of homework right now. I have a lot to go home to. I'm in honor student at my school. I have dance team. I am involved with my school's choir program. I have a best friend and a boyfriend. I have barely any time. If I wasn't a truly committed person, I wouldn't have dropped out. I would have spread myself way too thin and I wouldn't have had time for anything, and I just would have been really frustrated.
She'll be back. She's not done dancing. She's taking a break. She's exploring. Everybody misses her a lot.
It definitely takes a lot of dedication. I was doing musical, which is what my musical was for my school, at the same time as I was doing Nutcracker. The week of our show, I got mono, and it was probably the hardest thing I've done in my entire life. Right when I'd get off stage, it was like complete collapsing. I was about to cry. I was so exhausted. I felt awful when I was doing it, and I felt that I looked awful. When I watched the videos, I mean, I could just tell I would never regret doing it again.
When I was a student, of course, I did Nutcracker every year. 2 years I was a mouse, which was very important. Mice are very important in the production.
In those old days, you couldn't get the scores for the full Nutcracker ballet out of Russia. Russia, you know, in those days was reluctant to release things like that. It was just difficult. We had the piano scores for the divertissement, the Chinese dance, the reed flute dance, Sugar Plum Fairy, but the music for the first opening scene of the Nutcracker, the battle scene with the mice and the soldiers, and then the beautiful snow scene was not available. And anyway, I don't think I or my dancers were at a stage when we should have tried to do the full ballet. The symphony orchestra took notice of us. There was a wonderful conductor by the name of Wolfgang Stresemann, and he said, "Marie, we ought to collaborate. Why don't you do a ballet and I conduct the music?" And sure enough, we did the Nutcracker at the museum's peristyle. So he was my first bona fide conductor. And then from then on, we performed with the symphony and have ever since.
You do these turns and they're on your knees. It's a part of this Russian dance. And then at the end, the ending is this knee slide to the edge of the pit. I know that there were certainly more than a few times when, at the edge of the pit became, a little bit of a challenge to make sure we didn't go into the pit.
I think kids love it, and they know the music, they know the story, they know the ballet. I mean, the Nutcracker is everywhere now, so it's very special. And it's part of Christmas. Nutcracker was definitely, because we did it yearly, and we did, more than one performance, it was something that is so special to me. So I'm so happy to be back putting that on again every year. And when I moved to New York in 1983, that was the first time without Nutcracker, and there was a big hole missing in my life around Christmas time. I couldn't even listen to the music because it made me sad. It was just such an amazing part of my childhood. Dance is not for everybody. You have to have such dedication for it. The ones that do have that and love to do it, I want to inspire to keep doing it. I moved from Toledo to New York City in 1983. I had $200 in my pocket when I went to New York. It was a big wake-up call for me. I did Beauty and the Beast, I did Thoroughly Modern Millie, I did Kiss Me Kate, so many. And I did a commercial with Bill Cosby, a Coca-Cola commercial. To be relevant in the dance world today, you have to have contemporary training. Otherwise, you get to New York and you just won't make it into a company. I just took dance classes all day long. I took jazz classes, I took voice, I studied at Manhattan School of Music. That's kind of our goal, is just to maintain the past with Marie and the traditional ballet and move forward with what is relevant in society, in the ballet world today.
It's exciting in the Warwick household when it comes August, September, Nutcracker season. I've been in quite a few Nutcrackers. My guess would be somewhere in the neighborhood of 15 to 20. It's the only thing that kept me dancing as long as I did was the opportunity or the possibility to dance with my daughters. I have 4 of the 5 dance ballet. It just blossomed into a family event. We're all involved. Even the one that doesn't dance actually sewed one of the costumes just after we finish the Nutcracker. We go home after, to strike the stage, costumes back, all that, and we sit and we talk about the Nutcracker run. And then the whole week or whatever, we're just reliving it. And as I felt like I wind down the end of what I needed to get out of dance, it shifted more towards seeing the girls thrive. It gives me this opportunity to have this experience with my daughters. How many fathers can say that they've danced with their daughters? I just don't know too many. It gives us something that we share in common, that we bond over and through.
I wanted to do something on my own, don't we all? I pursued the Cricket West building, the front studio, not the back. The owner of Cricket West said my middle name should have started with a P for perseverance.
Cricket West was nice. The location was good. The ice cream store down the street or in the same strip mall was delicious.
The dressing rooms were teeny. The men didn't really even have a dressing room. They just had a little partition to the side right by the piano.
It was such a small space that you got to know everybody so well, and that was a really important part of it for me.
We all loved it there, and we functioned as a studio there.
For rehearsals for the Nutcracker in those days, when we had over 150 in the cast, I don't know how we ever did it. The year that we went from the Bach Conservatory, that was the year of a huge $3 million fire at Cricket West. We couldn't get close enough to the fire in our car. We had to get out and walk on the icy streets. The water from the fire hoses was freezing on the streets. And there was Bob Bell, the director of the symphony, working to get the piano of our studio out away from the fire. The next day, we danced Nutcracker in Monroe, Michigan. The day before, we had taken the costumes out of the studio, luckily, and put them in a truck to be transported to Monroe. So we had our costumes and we danced the next day in Monroe, Michigan. And it was about that time that my friend Velta Shernanuk came to town from Riga, Latvia. And she was with me for over 35 years. And this was before she even could speak English. She took herself to many movies, and I think she learned that way from the movies. And her accent, of course, was wonderful. And she would count 1, 3, 5, and would not know the numbers, but the girls would know what she was saying.
There was such a love of the art form that she and Velta passed on to us. Respect of the music, of the dance. And that's what I think got me so hooked, as well as so many of us dancers that have gone through the Toledo Ballet.
Oh, Velta was a prize. Each of the teachers brought something to my children's lives as far as the dance, different elements of the dance. She had a style all of her own, and everything came from her heart.
She inspired dancers not only in dance, but in the ways of life as well. She was part of my life for 35 years. Those who never knew her have a great loss.
We're not exactly doing Swan Lake. We are doing original productions. I think modern, I think contemporary, I think jazz, things like that force them to think outside their own box a little bit. For years and years, ballet was kind of it here. That is what Mrs. Vogt, I think, had in mind, and that's what she enjoyed. She loved the classics. When we first arrived here, I mean, I think there was a little reluctancy to like, oh, they're going to come in and jazz it up. I want to do it. I think it'd be really pretty. In a dangerous kind of way. It's definitely a little different than Toledo Ballet has done in the past. I mean, they have a 70-year history. I think once we ease their mind by showing that this is all going to be done in a very artistic way. When we look at Mom, we have to look with our head, not with our eyes. Not only embraced over the past 4 years, but also encouraged. You limit kids opportunities of being dancers if you just do ballet. But at the same time, there's just certain things that a dancer has to have, and that comes from the ballet training.
James Rouse, who had built the Franklin Park Mall, wrote me a letter and invited me to bring the ballet over to the mall.
They moved to the mall around 1981.
His credo was that he wanted to present arts in the marketplace.
They were nice studios, so much bigger than we had at Cricket West. It was amazing.
It was very exciting. It was very exciting, and the new space was wonderful, and being in the mall with all of the shops and, you know, the restaurants. Yet again, we'd go back to food.
It was dressing room for both women and for men. It was remarkable.
Well, we all had to wear the same thing. It was a uniform. You know, girls wore black and pink, and guys wore, you know, your tights. There was kind of a little leeway, you know, when you got older, but it's just, you knew what it was expected.
It was always tights. I mean, guys today don't have to wear tights, and I don't understand that. Personally, you can't develop an appreciation for the lines. You can't even see the lines if you aren't wearing tights.
Just part of the discipline that you needed to go through. That's one of the reasons why they have a dress code in ballet. It's all about discipline, self-discipline.
We just always seemed to have a group of guys while I was there. Mrs. Vogt would recruit guys, and, you know, it was a incentive for the guys to come. She would give them a scholarship.
Well, there are enough good parts to go around and never enough good dancers, so it works out.
I mean, it was always impressive to me how many guys she had. I think she was very good at communicating to guys how much she appreciated them and how much she valued their contribution to the overall productions. She was very good at that.
The mall decided they needed our space but would build us another studio up on the roof of Franklin Mall. It couldn't have been more exciting, up on the roof.
The largest studio that we have right now was built to accommodate rehearsing the final act of Nutcracker, which has to accommodate, you know, over 100 people on the stage at once. A lot of people say it feels so kind of New Yorky. It doesn't look like a bank. It doesn't have white walls. It's the wow factor. We don't want to look like a bank. We are working really hard at Toledo Ballet. We've been really aggressive in trying to make dance as accessible to as many people as possible who are interested. And that is regardless of a person's economic background, social background, cultural, racial, whatever. So we instituted a number of outreach programs, and these are kids who never would have walked through our doors. You know, these are kids who have tremendous potential. We saw the talent that may never have been tapped otherwise.
It's an expression of the soul. It's not just physical activity, it's life.
In 1995, Marie Vogt decided to retire, and at that point it was decided that we would become a nonprofit.
Yes, she was missed, especially in the beginning, But I think now that she's celebrated.
She must feel the love that comes from all of her previous students. I don't think there's anyone that is not ecstatic to run into Marie Vogt and have a conversation. And she always has time for you. I don't know that she knows she's as important as she is to so many of us.
It's important to have a passion for what you are doing. No matter what it is, if you love it, nothing will stop you. And it gives your life meaning. And I have never gone to the ballet studio, even today, without excitement. And that's how it was when I was teaching. Every day there was an excitement. Even now, there's always something to learn. Whenever I have a chance to sit in on a class, I do, because you can learn something.
I think he's worried about a lot of stuff, but that's natural. It's natural to be worried. And I think we're gonna pull it off.
I think I've been too busy to be nervous. I don't have time for nervous. Actually, the last 2 nights I've gotten some sleep. There's been a lot of wake up at 3 in the morning nights, though. Just making sure everything gets done.
Last night we kind of had some technical difficulties, and the show is really dependent on lights, so we had to make sure we had that done. A lot of us didn't feel comfortable yesterday, especially like Michael and Lisa. They were just like, we need another run through.
I don't think we really had that much time to rehearse this. We kind of had to buckle down and really get to where we are now.
What I asked them to do in this amount of time is unreal. Usually you would have at least a week to tech a show like this. We have a night. You know, and so that gets very difficult too. People are volunteering their time and doing so, in my opinion, in a very professional way. But it's not, you know, I mean, most of these people are attorney by day, stage manager by night, or you know, they have kids and they're running them all over the place, and then they come and they help out backstage. And the job they do is just incredible. I always tell kids that you do this because you can't imagine yourself doing anything else. If you can imagine yourself being an attorney, be an attorney. You know, be a doctor, be a vet, be what, you know, because it's, you know, it's hard wondering where the next paycheck is going to come. It's not an easy life, and it becomes very grueling to live that way.
It was always exciting when I put anything on. Getting an audience to the theater was exciting. The arts feed us, and they help to provide us with a more purposeful life. The ballet is never very far away. Now, do I miss all the teaching and all the directing? It was very exciting for so many years, but it was a lot of work. People will say, do you miss your house? No, but I miss my home, and there's a difference. A family is home.
Reverence is kind of saying goodbye or thank you for everything you've done. The emotion behind it, I think it's just so beautiful. There's nothing else you can really do. At the end of each class that we have in ballet, we all say thank you to the person that's giving the class, and we all curtsy towards them or bow. And it's just a way of saying thanks and ending class. It's kind of a closure.
Generous support for Reverence, Toledo Ballet is provided by the Clement O. Mininger Memorial Foundation and by The Blade, encouraging support of the arts and the great cultural institutions of the region, and by Thomas and Kathleen Donnell. Support is also provided by ProMedica Health System, working with physicians, healthcare providers, businesses, and the community to improve health, and by the Andersons, and with the generous financial support from viewers like you. Thank you.